Thank you very much, and welcome. My name is Steve Bonadio, and I'm your moderator and host today. And we're very pleased to spend the next hour with you talking about how you can best harness a global talent pool to accelerate innovation within your organizations. Before I start, I'd like to do a brief introduction of our speakers. Our keynote speaker today is Braden Kelley, and he is the co-founder of innovationexcellence.com. And the person speaking, Steve Bonadio, I'm your moderator, and I'm the Global Marketing Director at Innocentive. In a moment, I'll do a more formal introduction for Braden, but I would like to spend 1 or 2 minutes, and I promise no longer, to tell you a little bit about Innocentive. So who are we? Well, in essence, we help our clients solve problems that matter, and we do so through a unique approach of open innovation, crowdsourcing, and prize-based competitions. We've been in the market for about 10 years now, and we were incubated originally within Eli Lilly and spun out as a private company several years ago. We offer a complete innovation platform, which includes enterprise software, a proven methodology for formulating and developing problems and challenges, and a diverse global solver community of more than 250,000 solvers around the world, and with reach in excess of 12 million through our strategic partners, including PopSci, Nature, The Economist, and the Environmental Defense Fund. Now, Innocentive is unique in that we have a decade of experience in running open innovation prize-based competitions. So we've run over 1,300 public challenges and successfully transferred intellectual property inside and outside of 60 countries. And we've run close to 1,000 internal challenges. That's on our internal challenge platform, whereby organizations can engage existing employee groups, retirees, alumni, partners, suppliers, and others to help them solve their most pressing challenges. And what is truly unique about our business is that our clients pay for solutions. They're not paying for work or failure, and that's the real crux of what we do. We fundamentally believe that by leveraging both open and your existing channels, including CROs and traditional R&D and academic institutions, by blending and orchestrating networks and communities of different problem solvers, you can get to results much, much faster. And I think our clients, from those in pharmaceuticals and life sciences, healthcare, consumer goods, the government and the public sector, our nonprofit clients, and even our partners over there on the right hand of the slide will agree that we can fundamentally transform the way you innovate as an organization. And if I may, just a quick slide on what I think we really do. We help you to find that needle in the haystack. So if you have solutions to real problems, we can help connect you to some of the brightest problem solvers in the world. It's about open innovation, it's about crowdsourcing, and it's about competitions. And with that, I'd like to get to our keynote speaker, Braden Kelley. Braden is a globally renowned innovation thought leader, author of Stoking Your Innovation Bonfire, and co-founder of innovationexcellence.com, a leading web destination for innovation professionals. Since 1996, Braden has been advising companies on how to increase their revenue and cut their costs. He writes frequently on the topic of continuous innovation and works with clients to train innovators, create innovative strategies, drive effective customer marketing, affect organizational change, and improve organizational performance. He has maximized profits for companies while living and working in England, Germany, and the United States. He earned his MBA from top-rated London Business School. And with that, I'm very pleased to welcome Braden Kelley. Braden, take it away.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thanks for passing the ball over to me. I look forward to sharing all this great information and examples and other things that I've pulled together for this talk, and I'm very appreciative for Innocentive for hosting this for all of you. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in straight in, given that Steve has done such a great job of introducing me. And we'll talk today about harnessing the global talent pool to accelerate innovation. And so as we look at this topic, there's sort of 3 main things that we're going to dig into today. Number 1 is why having an external talent network strategy is becoming increasingly important. Number 2, how leading organizations manage their open innovation and crowdsourcing efforts. And number 3 is strategies for attracting talent to your organization's innovation efforts. And so those are the 3 main things we're going to focus on today. And so first, I'd just like to say thank you very much for taking time out of your day to dial in here and listen to this talk. And then also, I hope you find a few interesting and useful ideas from the talk today. So with that, let's go ahead and set the stage for this topic with a few questions. And the first question is, does your organization want to increase its speed to market? Is innovation on the minds of your leadership? Does management insist that the smartest people in the world work for your organization? Or do they acknowledge that there are more smart people outside your four walls than inside? The fact is, and I'm sure you all know this already, that the world is changing, and one of the ways that it's changing is that the world is moving from a talent ownership mindset to a talent attraction mindset. And there's an important difference there that we'll dig into. And so at the same time that the world is also moving from a fortress mentality where all work is secret and kept inside the organization's four walls to an integrated global economy with an interconnected web of suppliers and distribution channels where having a partner of choice mentality will be increasingly important. And as we look at that, and we look at the world of work in the near future, the most valuable employees will be those that not only do good work, but also who serve as a force multiplier for their organizations by being really good at organizing the efforts of others who don't even work for the company. And as we look at that, hopefully your organization will evolve to a place where, ideally, even those who don't work for you want to work with you. And I think that that's a key thing and a key thing to strive for, is to move from trying to have all the best people working for you to the place where you have not only great employees inside your organization, but great employees that understand and are really good at helping to orchestrate smart people outside the organization to help accelerate the innovation efforts of the organization. And so just to dig a little bit deeper, let's look a little bit more at why having an external talent network strategy is becoming increasingly important. And as we do that, the world continues to move away from being a place where employees can expect to have a job for life and where they can fight against any change to this paradigm to a world that will be more about not just personal branding, but also a world in which individuals will need to be really good at collaborating and playing well with others, but at the same time also honing their skills at standing out from the crowd. And so several of you may have come across the book by Seth Godin and written about tribes. And in this particular era that we live in now, in an era in which the tribes that we're part of, they'll become less about what company we work for and more about our interests, our passions, our professions. And at the same time, the concept of networking will continue to evolve from being about who you know inside the company to also increasingly about who you know outside the company. And so people are putting more and more effort into not only managing their network inside the company and making sure that they know the right people inside the organization that can help them get work done and can help make things happen, but also getting to know more and more people outside the organization that have the requisite skills, experience, and expertise that might come in handy as the work of the organization moves forward and as potential problems might come up that you can reach out to and help find solutions to the challenges that your business faces. So that's kind of the micro level reality. But meanwhile, at the macro level, we're confronted by an economy right now that's characterized by, of course, high unemployment, especially for the young. And while at the same time, those that have jobs, many of those people are underemployed. And also at the same time, at the other end of the age spectrum, many baby boomers are reaching retirement age, but really many in this generation don't see themselves as trading in their careers for a life of morning rounds of golf or afternoon naps or evening bridge clubs. Instead, we also have to factor into that the financial downturn that we've experienced, and now the fact is that an increasing number of aging baby boomers can't afford to stop working completely. So they will continue to look to make money and stay involved in some way in probably significant numbers. And for those of us who are not retiring and who still have jobs, the downsizing and the downturn has resulted in many employees now doing more and more work, but at the same time feeling less and less engaged. So the fact of the matter is that there's an army of talent out there, and when you combine these macro and micro pictures, you can see that this army of talent that's out there is obviously going to be looking to build their resumes or their balance sheets by working on interesting projects. And those could be projects that your organization is looking to engage them in through a multitude of tools that will be there at your disposal that we'll talk to as we move forward. So the fact of the matter is that it's time to challenge the status quo. We can't keep doing business the way that we have been doing it for centuries. We can't keep approaching talent the way that we have for even the last few decades. And we really have to look at, the old way of winning talent wars, where it was all about looking for the very best talent and hiring them and keeping them inside your own four walls and hoping that your talent is better than your competitor's talent. A model in which your whole goal was to find and hire the talent by offering them some money and maybe some perks like some free food and some benefits to get them in the door, and then park them in some cubicles or some lab space and hope that they'll not only run your company but also to help it grow and hopefully keep your innovation pipeline full, to a world, really from what we've learned over the last few decades is that increasingly, companies are noticing that employees who pursue what they do with passion will always outperform an employee with a gun to their head every time. And if you look at linking what people do to a purpose that they care about, they do even better. And so one of the key things that we also know is that people are not commodities. And Circuit City learned very publicly that people are not commodities and went out of business from treating them as if they were. It's an employee's value is not necessarily fully correlated to their salary, and if you get rid of the people that make the most money sometimes doing the same job, there's a reason why they are making that amount of money compared to their compatriots, and just keeping the lower paid employees isn't necessarily a game that you want to engage in, of course. So at the same time, as we look at the fact that people are not commodities, we also know that diversity is important to team success, and also it's hard to keep internally to have the level of diversity that we may want to have to maximize our chance for innovation success. And so to get some of this diversity, more and more organizations are looking to broaden their diversity of thought and to accelerate product launch and innovation timelines by opening up. Really it's a global economy with a global talent pool, and it's becoming easier thanks to technology to really broaden and embrace our attempts to harness that external talent. And in an era where organizations are focused on increasing productivity and output without changing the number of headcount, so really focusing on revenue or profit per head, smart employees and business units will increasingly focus on being a force multiplier, which is really all about getting more work done with the same number of headcount, and requires a fundamental change in thinking inside the organization about how you go about utilizing external resources to help get work done. And as your organization thinks about opening up or crafting a formal external talent strategy, there are several ways outsiders can help benefit your organization. One way is to think of some of the external talent networks as almost an expanded Rolodex of experts that you can consult with to expand your knowledge on a particular search area or a market that you're looking at, or to form a relationship with a particular expert and work together to solve a problem. You can also use your external talent strategy to find solutions from outside your industry. Now, one of my favorite examples of this is a tire company that was looking for a method to better cut rubber. And so they had their experts inside the company working on it, and they weren't really getting anywhere. and they decided to open up and look outside their industry and do some intellectual property searching outside their industry. And they found an interesting piece of analogous technology in the food industry that a big food company was using for cutting cheese. And amazing as it might seem, it turns out that cutting cheese and cutting rubber, because they're both viscous materials, turns out to be very similar. And so this tire company was able to license the technology from the food company and very much shorten the development of technology to solve the problem that they were facing and save money in the process. Or there's other ways that you can use your external talent strategy, which could also include engaging a network of solvers like Incentive provides. One healthcare company I spoke to recently found a solution to a problem that they'd been struggling with for 10 years by engaging the Incentive solver community. And at the same time that they found a solution to the problem that they hadn't been able to find internally before, they also found that many of the solutions that were submitted validated a lot of the hard work that they'd been doing over the last 10 years as being very logical and reasonable solutions that they tried to pursue. And then of course there's other reasons why you can engage in an external talent strategy, and one of those is that some companies strategically partner with external talent to advance their projects and help fight through roadblocks while they're off the clock to accelerate the timelines. Utilizing the talent that's available all around the world to collaborate on projects to help shorten timelines by sharing the work and moving the work around the clock. And one of the things that we find is that often when you engage with external talent, you can collect lots of little ideas from outside and connect them internally, uncovering some really big ideas that properly applied and executed can lead to some great new innovations. But to maximize the efficiency and effectiveness of your work with outsiders and the output, you need to be extremely strategic in your approach. Because the speed of adaptation, which is really your ability to adapt and integrate work from outside and bring it inside, will increasingly become more important as the way that we structure our work and work with outside parties becomes more and more prevalent. The companies that will continue to win going forward will be the ones that can adapt that which they find outside and bring it inside and execute it to full launch much faster. But at the same time, flexibility is incredibly important, and the flexibility you show as an organization and the ability of your employees to execute under immense market and customer pressures at the same time will become important as well. And I heard a story from a consumer packaged goods company that I was talking to not that long ago that was talking about how they even changed some of their values to incorporate agility into things that they would measure employees on, and to focus on making that a skill that they tried to develop in people. And I think that those kinds of skills, flexibility, adaptability, agility, and also collaboration will become skills that we'll start to look for more as we hire people, and we'll start to measure more as we hire people, especially as organizations look to harness external talent to accelerate product development timelines or to otherwise improve their ability to deliver the products and services that customers are really looking for, and to solve key problems in delivering those for customers. And so you must also be strategic, because ultimately you want to design external talent strategies, policies, and processes that can scale. You don't want to do it just as an experiment one time, but as you discover the power and the ability to have your part of the organization or the work that you look after benefit from being a force multiplier, organizations are going to want to try to scale that across their organization. And if you do a really good job of leveraging external talent in the work that you do, then chances are that the people higher up in the organization are going to want you to sort of share what you've done and how you were able to get more work done in the same amount of time that another part of the organization was able to get done, so that everybody in the organization can benefit. So let's move on to the second main topic, which I wanted to discuss today, which is how leading organizations manage their open innovation and crowdsourcing efforts. And so as we look at that, and we move on to the next slide, leading organizations engage in open innovation and crowdsourcing, and they do so after careful planning, and especially after they've asked themselves lots of questions to craft their approach. They don't just jump right in and start experimenting, or maybe they do it once and then step back and ask themselves careful questions. But, if you're going to pursue an open innovation and crowdsourcing effort, it is something that goes outside your organization. If you're going to try and leverage external talent, it is going to be something that opens your organization up to external scrutiny. So when seeking to engage external talent, you must first ask yourself lots of questions, including, the first one has to be, why are we doing this? What do we hope that external talent can achieve for us that our internal talent can't or maybe shouldn't? And how do we integrate the two together? Because you can't just, source something from the outside, of course, and then launch it. You have to incorporate it into your organization. And as you look to open up, it requires that you're very authentic in how you approach people outside. And at the same time, it actually requires you to be open, and that can be very scary for organizations and actually presents some risk at the same time. So you have to be careful about what your reflection is going to be as you go outside, because you can't erase public perception easily once it starts to take hold. And so you want to think about, as you craft your communications for engaging external talent, or as you look to create an open innovation community or start utilizing crowdsourcing communities or even solvers, you have to be very careful about, what are you representing to the outside about what you're looking for, what your goals are, and all of these things, so that you don't create a public perception that you do not intend. The second question successful organizations ask is they ask themselves, why will they care? Why will the external talent care? Why will they want to consider participating? And one good place to start in answering this difficult question is to ask, what kind of organization do we have? Do we have a product-driven organization? Microsoft is very much organized and structured around products. Or do we have a customer-driven organization? Hallmark organizes their company around customer moments more so than around products. Or do we have a purpose-driven organization? This is a picture of the Mead Johnson Nutrition lobby. And for those of you who don't know, Mead Johnson Nutrition is all about babies and children and providing nutrition to them. And the people that work there, I've heard it said, just love babies. And so everywhere you go in their space, this is a picture of their cafeteria. You see pictures of kids and babies everywhere to sort of reinforce that this is why we do what we do. But it doesn't really matter what kind of organization you have, whether you have a product-driven organization or a customer-driven organization or a purpose-driven organization. The key is to find something that not just your employees will engage with, but also, of course, what your partners and customers will engage with as well. And this could be a purpose, but it could also be love for a brand or a well-designed, emotionally connected product. But again, it circles back to this question of, why will they care? Why will people want to spend some of their limited time and energy helping you with your business goals? So, why are you getting started on this effort, and why will they care? So if you really want external talent to care, in some sense, your organization must be willing to become a servant. We've all heard about servant leadership and things like that, but you could also say that servant leadership can extend to customers. And by giving customers and potential partners reasons to care, and by helping them achieve their goals, you can start to engage that community more strongly, and also help to reinforce their participation by delivering offerings and behaviors that are consistent with this approach. The next question, I did say it was a series of questions that organizations ask them, is where does open innovation fit? Where in your organization, where in your innovation process and your structure around innovation is open innovation or crowdsourcing efforts, engaging the external talent community, going to fit? Who's going to own it? How's it going to fit into your overall innovation approach, your overall innovation strategy? And you have to decide that and make sure that you have an answer for that question. And moving beyond that question, a level down about, okay, yes, we've decided that we want to pursue an external talent strategy and we want to engage in open innovation or crowdsourcing is, how do we want to connect? How are we looking to connect? Do we want to build our own proprietary global sensing network that allows us to pull together insights and ideas from lots of different types of sources in different locations all around the globe, potentially building that as a competitive advantage against other people in our industry? Or do we want to utilize external service providers to get up and running faster or go wider than our own proprietary networks can go? Are we looking for crowd labor or creativity, which is one thing that you can pursue? Or are we looking to engage in open innovation or civic engagement in creating innovative solutions? So are we looking for ideas to help change things, or are we looking for getting work done? And so that sort of leads to the next couple of questions, which is, are we building an army of eyes, or are we building an army of hands? So you have to think about, are we looking for ideas and solutions to problems that we're struggling with that we can then help to make real, or do we have very clearly defined things that we're looking for help with that we can put out to an army of hands? Some other questions to look at. What intersection are we looking for? When you're looking to work with the outside, or if you're looking to work with external talent, for there to be value delivered, there of course has to be an intersection. And so Procter & Gamble, as they think about working with their potential and current suppliers, they look at the intersection of what's needed and what's possible. So what does the customer need versus what are the things that their suppliers and themselves can deliver from a possibility standpoint, either from technology or other aspects. Or are we looking for at things in a broader way and looking to identify new insights that we can use to drive our innovation efforts? Or, of course, are we looking for ideas for solutions to address customer insights about problems that we've already identified? But we have to be really careful not to get too stuck on the ideas component, because great ideas fail all the time, either from poor timing or poor value translation, poor value access. Those are a couple things that we'll talk about in just a minute. But it can't be just about the idea, because, of course, you have to execute the idea once you get it inside your organization. And when I talked recently to some healthcare organizations, there's potentially on a particular solution, lots of different ways of looking at it. Somebody might look at a problem from an engineering perspective, or somebody might look at it from a medical perspective or a science perspective, or people might look at it from a clinical perspective. And the needs in the clinical environment can be very much different than what somebody might engineer or what somebody might think of from a science perspective. So we can't get too focused on the ideas. We have to look at, how we're going to try to make these things real as we try to bring them inside from the outside as we work on our external talent strategy. So, we've all heard that question, we've all heard that saying, I should say, that if you have a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Well, when it comes to open innovation and crowdsourcing, there are lots of tools that we can use. And so one of the most important questions we have to ask ourselves once we open up is, what tool is best for this problem? Because, you don't want to use a hammer on every problem, of course. So you have to look at, is this a defined piece of work that we can put out to a community like 99 Designs, or do we just need someone to help us temporarily through a place like People Per Hour? Do we want to some one-on-one advice from an expert via a Garson Lehman Group or Your Encore type setup? Or are we really looking to solve a big challenge that we want to engage a large, global, diverse community of solvers to help solve with a company like Innocentive? So there's lots of different tools. Alf Bingham and Dwayne Spradlin of Innocentive wrote in their book this list of 10. I'm not sure I would fully say that this is comprehensive, but there's definitely a lot of the different ways that you would go about engaging to find a solution to a problem. So always remember that when it comes to engaging external talent and building an external talent strategy, or possibly even a global sensing network, there are lots of options to consider to fit to the particular situation you are facing, or to create a scalable process that addresses the most common scenarios you face. And that's another key point, is that every organization is going to be trying to solve different challenges and going to have different types of challenges that they're facing in terms of accelerating their innovation efforts or trying to get more work done. And so not only in each situation, but for each organization, you have to look at which tools make the most sense for you. And then also successful organizations have a plan for how they are going to interface with these external resources and how they are going to bring ideas and potential solutions in-house for further development and launch. But it's not always a rosy picture. It's not easy to go outside your organization and make things happen and find really great ideas and bring them inside your organization and have them flawlessly executed. There will be some cultural obstacles potentially, and you have to consider what the potential cultural obstacles might be to engaging external talent in your particular organization. P&G had to work very hard to change a culture of not invented here to one where people embrace the new things and talk quite frequently about things being proudly found elsewhere. And so there's a few different things that you can do to help knock over some of these cultural obstacles and to help really seat a culture of external talent leverage. And successful organizations do many of these things, and of course one of the most important is to have top-level support. But it's also very important to set goals and to communicate them out both to your internal workforce but then also to people outside your organization if you feel that they're ones that you can share. And there's kind of two different levels of goals. There's the goals about what you want to achieve with a particular open innovation or crowdsourcing effort, and then there's also what you want to achieve with your overall external talent strategy. And we'll talk about the second one in just a second. And then, of course, you need to make a plan, and then you also want to seek understanding before transformation. So it is good to do an experiment and to try to get as much learning about utilizing a particular tool as possible before you try to make a plan for how to use it in a widespread way across the organization. That's definitely something that you want to do. And successful organizations definitely don't underestimate how incredibly important communications and education and dialogue are around helping people understand why you're engaging in external talent strategies and what you're hoping to achieve. Successful organizations also recognize and reward those who do go outside, and they attach a goal to their overall strategy. So Procter & Gamble talks about sourcing 50% of their new products and services from outside of the organization. Successful organizations also weave an external focus into internal systems. So you can imagine that as an employee is potentially working through an internal stage gate process or some sort of other idea gathering process, and they might actually be flagged and asked, have you looked at potentially using external talent to help solve this challenge or to help develop this product? But we're talking a lot about external talent, but we can't at the same time in all of this ignore the fact that you can't achieve success and excellence over a long period of time without extremely passionate business owners on the inside that really love the products and the services that you're delivering and the direction that they're going. And if they have that passion, then they're going to utilize both internal and external resources to make the best overall solution for the customers that they're passionate about serving. Successful organizations also have someone own their external innovation efforts and often also have owners and champions in the different business units or product groups to help spread the love or spread the word and the message about what they want to make happen. In addition, successful organizations educate employees on how to engage. Oftentimes they also negotiate master service agreements at the center so that people outside the core people that are owning open innovation or crowdsourcing efforts just have to negotiate a statement of work with a particular provider and don't have to get into all of the usual legal aspects. So it helps to remove some of the barriers in people utilizing some of these external tools. Successful organizations also make resources available for integration, for bringing those great ideas inside and helping to get them executed, providing the hands to adapt and integrate and launch. But they also treat this effort not as a sprint but as a marathon, and they tend to make a long-term commitment to learning and adapting and growing their involvement. So one other thing I'd like to say is that successful organizations understand that it's about making and maintaining connections and community. You build it for when you need it instead of building it when you need it. And there's a very small but important distinction there. If you start building communities to attract talent to you before you need them, they'll be much more impactful than if you rush out there when you have a burning platform that you're trying to solve immediately. Successful organizations understand that attracting and managing external talent is as important as finding and hiring the best internal talent. And they're actually changing their budget allocations to fit this paradigm. And so my question would be, how many of you are doing this? How many of you are reallocating how you spend your money to use it on either internal or external talent? And I would also say that the role of human resources in the near future will not be just to recruit, develop, and fire staff, but also to build and curate talent pools. The HR profession will have to build a new core competence in network orchestration and managing talent, no matter where the talent lives, either inside or outside the organization. So it's really time to start preparing if you're an HR professional, or it's also time to start talking to your HR professionals about the talent that they're trying to manage, and really start preparing for a future where you want to not only just attract the best talent into your organization and develop them, but also look at building long-term relationships with the best talent outside your organization and keep them close to your organization and close to the problems and challenges that your organization faces and is looking to solve. So let's look at some quick examples of a lot of the different open innovation and crowdsourcing efforts out there that people are working on. So one that a lot of people have probably heard of by now is Threadless, which is an online T-shirt retailer that uses their customers to help source designs for their T-shirts. Then there's a newer company that's sort of an equivalent, but in a slightly different way, called Quirky, that puts forth challenges to people about different consumer products, and then the winning solutions actually get manufactured and sold in places like Bed Bath & Beyond and the Home Shopping Network and other things like that. Then you also have big companies like Lego getting into the game and asking people for ideas and saying that if you get enough support behind your idea, we'll actually make it. And this is definitely different than mass customization. Mass customization is where you might say, here you can take these 80 ingredients and turn them into your own muesli and have it shipped to your door. It's very, very different. So we have to be very conscious of those differences. One of my favorite examples of open innovation is Procter & Gamble and Clorox actually two competitors working together to create a joint venture to deliver products in this food storage area and trash bag area as well. There's not a whole lot of companies that often go so far as to partner with their competition to deliver benefits for both companies. And if you have some great technology inside your company that you don't necessarily maybe have the best brand to bring to market to maximize the revenue potential that you might be able to achieve, then sometimes this is another thing that you might want to look at, is either creating a joint venture or licensing out the technology to a competitor. Because at the end of the day, it's all about maximizing value for shareholders, and if you can do that by working with a competitor, it shouldn't be outside the realm of possibilities. Intuit is another one of my favorite examples about companies that do a lot of very interesting things in the open innovation space. On their website, Intuit Collaboratory, they post challenges. They also host in-person events like on Entrepreneur Day. They're very active on Facebook as well. And then they also, in addition to trying to make things happen in terms of their own innovation efforts, they also invest back in the community that they're trying to serve, and their overall efforts help to keep the community of people that they want to work with close to their organization. Scion Technologics is another great example of a company that's really opened up and is very engaged in open innovation. They make rugged handheld devices, and you can see that they have their CEO with a video right there front and center. SAP has gone beyond their own organization to form a community with other organizations as well for leveraging open innovation. P&G posts all their different things they're looking for on their Connect and Develop site. Starbucks is my least favorite example. I think that when you just let everybody talk about everything and make it all very public, that it doesn't really drive the kind of differentiation and competitive advantage that you want to achieve. And then sort of closing, you have companies like General Mills that post their challenges on their own website. But then, of course, you also have organizations, some of these same organizations that work with organizations like Incentive when they have some really big challenges that possibly they don't want to make public that they're the ones behind the challenge, or they want to engage a larger, globally diverse solver network than what they feel that they have direct access to with their own internal open innovation efforts. So just want to cruise through this last section really fast so that we have time for questions. So when it comes to attracting talent to innovation, obviously it's about listening first, seeing what's important to people, and then adding value to the conversation. You really want to accumulate energy and unleash it in a focused direction, and you want to start by defining what innovation means to you. And I'm just going to skip through this part. You want to engage people with things that they're passionate about. You want to identify, if you can, areas where you can help make people feel part of something versus building walls to keep them out. But don't forget it's about fun, too, so make sure you're using language that reinforces the fun aspect of engaging with your community. This is a picture of Intuit's Innovation Wall of Fame in their Mountain View headquarters, and that's from an internal perspective, but there's no reason why we shouldn't also be trying to use some fun and recognition from when we engage external talent as well. Because really it's sort of climbing up this pyramid that you want to do, and there's sort of hierarchy of needs if you want to get to innovation, and so it's moving past pure management and leadership to really earning people's respect and trust and injecting some fun and purpose and insights and flexibility if you want to get all the way to innovation. And so you want to do all of that before you share what it is that you're hoping to get out of the open innovation effort. And you want to remember that many big ideas start small, and you don't know which one of those necessarily all the time is going to become the whopper. So remember that you need to balance your needs with theirs, or theirs being the external talent community, and that you really want to make sure that you're recruiting allies. And from the individual's perspective, there's lots of different reasons that people get involved, everything from financial to learning to the camaraderie. You have to remember that most people's radio station is tuned to WIFM, and that's what's in it for me. And so you have to try to find what value you can bring to the overall network. And so that means not just attracting people to your organization and keeping them close so that you can interact with them, but sometimes that means moving yourself out of the way and allowing people in the community to connect to each other, that may be the way that they get a lot of value. And so you have to help facilitate conversations oftentimes between community members and not just try to build a community to attract people to you. So some key things to remember. I know I'm getting short on time. Number one, carefully craft your language and communications. Number two, give people a way to connect with you. Number three, don't just look to extract value from your network. Think about what value you can put into it. Number four, sometimes the value is connecting external participants, not just to you, but to each other. And then number five, I just want to reiterate, build your network before you need it, not after. So with that, we're approaching the finish line. And so I just want to say that, the three main things, again, that we talked about today is, number one, why having an external talent network strategy is becoming increasingly important. Number two, how leading organizations manage their open innovation efforts and crowdsourcing efforts. We talked about that. And then we also talked about some strategies a little quicker than I would have liked because I was starting to run short on time for attracting talent to your organization's innovation efforts. And so one key thing I want to highlight here is we covered a lot of ground, and I squeezed a lot of stuff in here. But this webinar isn't the end. It's only the beginning, you could also say, because there's also going to be a white paper that I'll be doing together with Incentive that will be released in early January. And so a lot of this content and even more examples and findings from interviews with a lot of companies that I've been doing and research that I've been doing over the last couple of years as well will be incorporated into that. So stay tuned for that. And so with that, just one question remains, except for your questions, and that's, what are you waiting for? Are you willing to take that leap of faith and throw yourself out there to try to engage the external talent community? And as you do, always remember that to be a rock star, you have to play music people want to listen to and pay for. So I'd like to turn it back over to Steve. And so let me just pass the ball, and then we can open up we can look at the Q&A section of the tool and answer your questions.
Well, thank you, Braden. Thanks very much. Before we get to questions, I would urge you to take a look at Incentive as well as innovationexcellence.com and innovationbonfire.com, which is Braden's book website. There's a lot of good content not only on our site and the ability to follow Incentive and what we're doing, particularly on the blog. Braden, you mentioned that you were a little short on time on the third section. But if you visit our blog, it's very much focused on the solver experience. So what is it like to be a solver? In fact, we've got a whole series of blogs called I'm a Solver, which highlights solver stories and their journey from looking at a challenge to working on that challenge to solving and ultimately winning that challenge. So a lot of good content both on the Incentive site as well as Braden's site. But thank you, Braden. That was a thoroughly enjoyable presentation, and I think you made some really salient points. With that, there are a few questions from the audience, and I would urge you folks to look at the Q&A tab over on your right-hand side in the WebEx panel here and type your question in. First question, Braden, I'll direct this to you. One of the participants, Caesar, mentioned, I agree that overly focusing on ideas is important, but aren't ideas part of the strategy, i.e. a starting point? Now, I recall you mentioned something about Starbucks being your least favorite example of open innovation. Tell me, where do ideas really fit into the whole OI mix? And are some of the sort of pure ideation approaches that we see out in the marketplace, are they enough to get to real tangible business results?
Well, from the organizations that I've talked to over the years and have done work with over the years, a lot of times people start with a more open approach to trying to gather ideas from their employees if we look at the internal context. And then they find often that they switch to the challenge-based approach. Often also as organizations look to go external, they just realize that they can't sustain an effort like My Starbucks from having it just an open free-for-all looking for ideas. And so they also approach their open innovation efforts in a very challenge-based approach, looking for very specific solutions to very specific questions that they work very hard to craft. And I think that's one of the keys to success in any kind of innovation is, how much effort you put into crafting that question. And successful organizations shop those questions around to try to get lots of different perspectives to form that challenge, to try to make it as effective as possible, and make sure that the answers they get back are what they intend to get back. Because the way that you ask a question can make a huge difference in the kinds of ideas that you get back. So if I were to say, how do you make a green pair of blue jeans, I would get answers back, everything from use green wool or paint them green to use organic cotton or try to remove water from the growing process or lots of other ways of answering that. So ideas are important, but you want to make sure that you're structuring the questions driving that idea gathering very carefully.
Thanks, Braden. That's a great question and a great answer. Another question here for you. What new skills at both the individual and corporate level do you think are truly required to succeed in open innovation? I can give you my perspective just briefly. I think the key skill for organizations is going to be learning how to orchestrate networks and communities of different problem solvers, both within their organization and external to their organization. Because if you think about sort of a blended innovation portfolio where you're looking outside, you're looking inside, you're looking across your organization, you're looking to partners, suppliers, really the world is your oyster. It's our fundamental belief that how you orchestrate those relationships and manage those relationships is going to be a key to success. But we'd love to get your perspective on that as well.
Well, I think there's a couple main keys. One is cultivating an agile mindset. So cultivating the mindset that it doesn't really matter where an idea comes from, but what can we do to make it happen when it does come in, whether it comes from inside or outside, or how are we moving resources around or requests around to the place where they can be answered the most quickly and the most effectively. And so, getting away from that not invented here mindset to a more agile mindset is going to be very important. Also structuring our organizations to provide the flexibility to move resources to where they're needed versus, the way that we're structured now, which is very much an industrial economy type structure where we have very clearly defined work titles and people fill those and they do just that. I think we'll still need that kind of structure, but we'll also need a second structure for the more entrepreneurial efforts or the more innovative efforts of the company so that resources in that part of the organization can move around to the projects where they're needed. And the people that work in that side of the business are very good at collaboration, are very good at structuring challenges, are very good at building and maintaining networks and attracting talent, both internal and external, into those networks and knowing where the best answers might come from, and also good at facilitating the relationships internally and externally to get stuff done. And that's where I think we have to go.
Great. So again, folks, we have a couple more minutes here, and I'd urge you to use the Q&A panel. And for those questions we don't get to today, we will create a blog post at blog.initiative.com and answer any of those questions on the blog. Braden, put your crystal ball, on a table here and look into it. And what's your sense of the percentage of a typical company's innovation portfolio that is open today, and where do you really see it in 5 years? Is it 5% open today, 95% traditional, and that flips upside down, or is there more of a balance? Where do you see things going?
Well, I think it really depends on how you define open, and also, it varies a lot by industry. But I think if we were to look across very broadly across industry, and I think if we were to look at a very narrow definition of open innovation in terms of putting out challenges or asking for ideas to help drive new innovative efforts, then I would say that very little effort, probably less than 5%, is being focused there. Most innovation efforts are still focused internally. And I think that that's right for now, because I think a lot of organizations, while over the last few years they've started to get better at managing internal innovation, they're still working on that. And until you get really good at that and then really engaging your employees and doing good communications about your innovation efforts internally, there's a lot of risk to going externally. And so it's good to test internally before venturing outside, or venturing outside in a more anonymous way and with some help, rather than putting it up on your own website, because there are things that you'll learn about how to engage people and how to get the best solutions in from the innovation requests that you make.
Certainly, and I think going externally, the anonymity piece and also the protection of intellectual property are essential. But that risk can be managed,
yes.
and we've proven that. So, final question here. I know we're bumping up against the top of the hour. You mentioned that you've done a number of interviews as a component of your research. Any just key learnings, one or two learnings, as you talk to customers, people doing innovation? What jumped out at you as sort of the key aha during all those conversations?
Well, I think that one of the key things that jumps out is that there's always resistance to change, and of course, and people might experiment with something, and the key is moving beyond that experiment to making it part of the way that you do business. And I think that that's probably the biggest, toughest hurdle, because people might experiment with something and do it once, and they might even have a good result, but then they still might go back to the old way they did things just because that's what they're used to and what's easier. And so some of the key ways that organizations try to break that down are really getting out there and putting feet to the pavement and organizing a lot of meetings where you're really talking about what you're trying to do and what it could do for the parts of the organization that you're talking to, and really doing a lot of communication and helping people understand what it could mean for them, and having that top-level support to give you cover and make sure that resources appear as you need them, and that people participate in the effort. And then, getting people involved in the effort and helping to shape some of the challenges can also be very powerful as well, because then people have some ownership in the potential outcome because they gave their 2 cents on how to better shape the question or whatever it might be.
Great. Well, hey, Braden, I wanted to thank you very much for facilitating and having a really great conversation on the intersection of open innovation and talent management, and how the two are really coming together to help organizations harness innovation and open innovation to accelerate their innovation efforts as well as their business initiatives. So thank you for that, and thank you to the audience for joining us. We will be doing many, many more of these webinars and web events in the coming year. And as Braden mentioned, we're all very much looking forward to the white paper on this topic. And if you happen to register for this webinar or attend this webinar, we will ensure that you get a copy of that white paper when it comes out in early January. Again, thanks so much to Braden Kelley and the folks over at WebEx. This is Steve Bonadio from Innocentive, and we'll be signing off. Have a great day. Take care now.
Thank you, everyone.